Hey, welcome back to this new video tutorial about advanced sessions. So in this video we are going to do the browsing server window. So it's going to be really widgets or oriented, even if there are some multiplayer things involved. But that's something we need to do if we want to have a proper browsing server window, a clean one. So, but before we do that, I wanted to try the game with 4 players just to see how it goes. We might have lots of errors considering the delay is really high. My computer is lagging, so some players might not have the information on time and that might break, and we don't want that. So the server is created. This one is going to try to join. I'm going to let him do the stuff one by one in order to avoid any problem. Afterwards, we're going to have like a player joining queue to solve that problem. If several players are joining together, the game instance will handle that and will properly make them connect without missing any data. So I'm going to try to start the game in order to see if 4 players are properly spawning. I got a huge lag. I believe that's normal if you consider my computer is running for a client. Okay, so it looks like it's working. I'm going to exit. And I have error because I believe because my inputs are still there, so I'm just going to disable my inputs in order to have no error whatsoever. I'm going to do that real quick. I'm sorry. Alt click to disconnect the node, the cable. You got me. So that's it. Stand still. I don't want you neither of you guys. All my inputs are gone. So we can have a proper testing environment. So I tested with 4 players. It seemed to work. That's fine. So I think I'm going to keep going with 4 players for the sake of this tutorial, because I believe we want a proper system, and a proper system can handle several requests in the same time, and that is going to simulate that pretty well. So what I wanted to make to create this in this video is a browsing server window that opens up when someone is searching for a server, and there's going to be excuse me, there's going to be a list of server popping, and you will be able to join using a join button, obviously. So actually we're going to start by that. So I'm going to open up my content window. I'm going to go in my interface, widgets. You can create that wherever you want. New folder, out game. So what do we need there? We need a new user interface. We need a new widget blueprint. I'm going to call that widget server entry, and that is basically going to hold this server information, and that is going to display well, you're going to see right there right now. So I'm going to add a box and a text that is going to be the name of the server. I'm going to add a button that is going to be the button needed to join the server. So I'm going to say this box is larger and longer. I'm going to say, well, what am I going to say? That looks okay. I'm going to say the text doesn't fill. I'm going to say the button fills. I'm going to say the box is a little wider actually. And I'm going to add a text to the button. I can drag and drop text that works. I'm going to call that join because we want to join with that. Actually, we're going to have a problem if the name of the server is longer than text block. It's going to overlap with the button, or it's going to disappear, I believe. If I do that, yes, we're not going to see that. So I'm going to say, hey, size to content, so that it's always going to be of the good size. I'm going to add a little space in between our two things. So I added a spacer. I want that a bit larger. Yep, that's fine. We have a proper button. We want that at the top of our screen, at the top of the canvas panel, because it's going to be added to the outgame menu inside a vertical box. So we want a vertical box. How do we want our browsing server window? Well, I'm going to do that just like that. You can do that however you want. It doesn't really matter. This is going to be the box in which we're going to drop our server entry when the player will find one while searching. And of course, we're going to add a title line that is going to say, that's going to tell the player what is it going on this window. So I'm going to do that right now. I want an horizontal box. Yep, that's added. I'm going to put that at the top. I want a text. I want to put that inside. Server name. What do I want after that? I don't want anything actually. That is just going to tell the player what is going on here. This is the box. This is going to be a variable because we want to add text entry to that thing. So we need to call that in the blueprint. So we need that to be a variable. And that is going to be called server entry box, because we want to know what's that when we call that in blueprint. We don't care about that box. These are just placeholder to see how it behaves if I add columns. We're going to delete that afterwards. So we got that set up. We need to do some stuff on the server entry to make it able to receive informations from a session, an online session. So the session is basically going to tell the server what text to display, basically the server name, and what session to join, obviously. So we're going to need a variable held session, that is going to be the session held, stored in memory by that. We want a blueprint session result, and we're going to make that to expose that on spawn. Oh, are we going to do that? Yes, we are. So that is basically going to say, hey, when we want to create a widget, of that type, it's going to ask for a session right away, so we can use this variable right in the construct event. So what do we want from the held session? Well, we want a get server name, and we want that text that is going to be a variable, server name texts. Oops. Server name texts. So always a good naming convention. Well, not always, but I try to. So we want that to have a new text that is going to be the name of the server. And what do we want next? We want to create server entry and to add them to this vertical box when the player is searching for sessions. So right now, searching sessions is basically 1 in 2. So we're searching and we're joining. So we're going to do two different things now. We're going to break that link. We're going to break that. We don't need that anymore. We don't need that. We don't need that either. We're going to move that away. I'm going to comment real quick host game just to know where I am. Trigger level traveling. That's really bad to use event names like comments, because comments are supposed to tell you what that does, and that doesn't really tell me what that does, but will not matter at that point. It doesn't really matter at that point actually. So what do we want to do when someone's search for sessions? Well, we want to tell the guy we're searching for sessions that he found some. So basically, we're going to build a custom event on the controller that is going to create server entries, and we're going to call that create server entries. Create session entries in order to understand what's going on, and we're going the game instance is going to call that whenever it finds a session, an available sessions. So it's going to pass that session as parameter. So we want a blueprint session result target server, and we want that event to be run on client, because since the game instance is going to call that, oh, maybe it's not going to work because the game instance can't cast on client. On the client controller, can it? Oh, of course it can. The client controller does exist on server, so the game instance can access to that. So what do we want to do? We want the game instance to say on success, we want the game instance to say, hey, let's search for 5 sessions, and we want it to say, hey, on server, for each session you found, create a server entry in this controller. Create session entry. Oh, actually that's a player controller, so it doesn't know that I am an outgame controller, so we can't call that function. So actually I need to cast that to outgame controller, and that's not good for the modularity of our system, but for now we're going to go with that. Basically we won't be able to use the same logic we're using there for our outgame controller for the in-game controller. So you won't be able to join a game while you're already in game with that code. We're going to recode if we want that to be able for the players. But that's alright for now. For now, we don't really care. So for each session you find, tell the outgame controller to create a session entry. So we're going to say that's singular and not plural. That's more accurate. And the target server is the server we found during the advanced session. And what do we want to do with that? Well, we want to get our menu. We want to create a new widget. We want the server entry widget. We're going to tell him that is the server, the session you're holding, and we're going to add that. Actually, we're going to get our box. Remember the box we created? We created the server entry box. So we're going to access that. We're going to add a child. We're going to say that child is the widget we just created. So that is going to work right away, I believe. So I'm going to say, hey, this is going to create server entries. And what are we going to do now is deleting that. And I want to do the button logic before we try that. So on the server entry, what do we need? We need the button, an event on the button. So we want the button, and we want onClicked, adding an event. I'm going to rename that. Button join session button. So I'm using session server. That's not clean, but that's not proper naming convention at all. But we don't really care at that. We don't really care for now. We're just rushing the thing to be done. So when we click on the join session button, what do we want to do? We want to get our controller. Remember, controller 0 is always the client, the player owning that widget, where that widget is being displayed. We want to cast to outgame controller, and actually we need a new event that is going to call the joining session logic. So that is actually not quite right. This is not join game, this is the search search sessions, and this is going to be a new custom event, join session. And that is going to be, we're going to need a session to join. So we need a blueprint session result as a parameter, session to join. We also need a controller, obviously. So we need a controller, and we're going to need to cast. We're going to need we're going to be needing to cast also like we did before, but I still wanna try to make it generic. Joiner player, and so this player is going to join that session, and on success we're going to say joining success. So join session. We're going to comment that real quick. Search sessions. So when we press that button, we want that server. When we press the join button on the server entry, we want that event to be called. We want the server to be calling it. So on the controller, so that is going to be renamed as well. Search games. Client wants to join. Client wants to search. This is going to be called searching sessions. Search game up. We launch the searching logic, and we need the new client wants to join, and that is going to be the same as our previous. Is going to call something like that, server join session. That is going to be called on server, but that we need the blueprint session that is going to be joined to be cast as a parameter. So we need the target session that is going to be cast all the way to the game instance. Target session, we're going to call that differently, session to join, to avoid little bugs. So we want that to activate our throbber, and rename that real quick. Joining. This is going to call join session with that as parameter up. We're going to compile. That's going to cry. It's alright. I can make you stop cry. We're fine. Joining logic, and this is the searching logic now. So what that wanna do, that's wanna get the game instance. I copy pasted our game instance reference. The game instance is going to call a join session. Who are you, my friend? You're myself, and this is the session I want to join. So what do we get here? We're going to just check the logic once more. So on my menu, I'm pressing browse online games. I want to view the event. The event says, hey, controller, search for games. Yeah, I know what we didn't do. So, hey, search for games. Search games, what does that do? That is searching for five game maximum. Up, that is saying, hey, create session entries. That is creating a widget that is adding a child to our server entry box. Then we want to push that join button, and this is going to call our controller, and we want to join. Client wants to join, and here we need to cast as parameter that thing. And actually, did we say that was running on client? Yep. When we create our button, that needs to be cast on client, obviously, because once more, because a widget doesn't exist on server. So back on the button, we can click the button that says I want to join. joining. I want to join. What does that say? That say join on success, joining success. Okay, well, I believe we can try that out. Hit play. Wait a moment. Yep, our vertical box is our server box is overlapping with the menu, at least on my window, maybe not yours. And that's what I wanted to do, make that visibility false, and when I press browse online games it shows, but we're going to do that in the next video, I believe. So the server is hosting, everybody gets resets, that one is browsing games, and what is going to happen? Oh, is finding one, but can we have the button? No, we can't. Basically because the text is too long, so we can't try our thing, so that's really silly. So for now, we're just going to check that. We're going to say, hey, that is supposed to be to size to its contents. So that box is increasing in size, but we specified in our menu we specified that size, so the box can't go further than that box. So in order to prevent that, we're going to say, hey, that is a maximum size of that window. Excuse me, that window. So I said that window was 660 units in width. So I'm going to say, hey, that can't be wider than 660 width. So I'm going to put all that in the size box. So I drag and drop the size box. I want the size box to be to override the width by 60 units, and to override the 8 by 60 units. I'm going to compile. Oh, why is it not working? If I increase that size, oh, and if I hit that, oh, nothing's happening. Well, I'm going to specify its size here since it appears to be working. So I want that to be 550, sorry. I want that to be 50 units in height. And I want that button to be auto-sized, and I want that text to fill the size box, and I want that to start on the left, and I'm going to try that real quick to see how that goes. So host multiplayer, browse online games. What is that going to give us? Oh, I got a button. So I didn't toggle the visibility of our throbber, but it's okay for now since we are all excited about me pressing that join button. If I press joining success, okay, I'm going to browse online games everywhere. I'm going to be a little dirty with my code. Maybe it's gonna bug, obviously not. I'm going to join with everyone. Up, everyone is joining. And that's wonderful. That's going to wrap up that video. No, obviously not. That's not going to wrap up that video. New test we need to do is to have two sessions running on live. So this one is going to host a multiplayer game. And I told you every one of these is now his own server. So we want this one to host another game. We shouldn't be doing that too much. It kinda stresses the editor, I believe, but for the purpose of testing, we need to do that. So we're going to browse online games on both the new clients, and we're gonna see if we have two. Yep, we do have two entries. So that is good news. So one can join the left one, and the other one is going to join the right one. Well, actually, I really don't know who is who, but that's the next thing we need to do. That's adding a server name parameter, but that is going to be for the next video. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I'm going pretty fast, but actually you can hit pause and do stuff at your own speed, but this is pretty long. The whole way to having a proper logic is pretty long, and I don't want that to take too much time. I hope you guys don't mind. I hope you guys like that, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.